Hollywood will never be the same after this. What started as a routine appearance by Nick Offerman on Jimmy Kimmel Live turned into one of the most awkward and explosive moments in late-night television history. The audience initially laughed at Kimmel's quips, but the studio atmosphere grew so tense it felt like you could cut the air with a knife. And then Nick snapped. Instead of the planned chuckles and clips, he delivered a brazen truth, spoken straight to the face. Kimmel was caught off guard. Producers were frantically waving their hands, and security was ready to step in. The studio audience couldn't believe their eyes as the real behavior of late-night TV's most successful host was exposed live on air. And that was just the beginning. Behind the scenes, it's even worse. Insiders are already leaking shocking details, yelling at crew members, attempts to smooth over the broadcast through PR teams, and pressure on the studio. But Nick's words were out there, and they couldn't be taken back. Want to know what he said? And why this could change the course of the entire industry? Then watch this video to the end and share your thoughts. Are TV hosts truly untouchable? Or is it time to speak the truth out loud? "Oh, Nick Offerman, America's favorite woodsman," Kimmel exclaimed as Nick sat down. "How's life without Wi-Fi? Have they made you take a tech test yet?" "I passed the test," Nick replied evenly. "Turns out I still have a conscience." Laughter from backstage, a bit delayed, a bit forced. Kimmel didn't back down. "You wrote a column accusing, let me see, cultural sterilization of the nation through fear of manual labor?" he said, raising an eyebrow. "Sounds like your character Ron Swanson on acid. Or maybe it sounds like a reality that no longer fits the TV format." "Okay," Jimmy grinned, a little sharper. "Be honest, do you really believe America's degrading because of TikTok and oat milk coffee shops?" "No," Nick said slowly. "I believe America's degrading because we stopped valuing the people who build, grow, and heal. Because in this studio, they know more about picking a filter than assembling a chair." Kimmel snorted, as if touching a sore spot. "But you're one of the winners in this system. TV shows, memes, branded axes. What do you have to complain about?" Silence hung like August before a storm. "That's exactly why I'm speaking," Nick said, looking straight into the camera. "Because when those with something to lose start talking, it means things have gone too far." Kimmel leaned closer. His voice grew quieter, sharper, like a razor. "You just can't accept that time moves on, that you're no longer the voice of a generation, that others are speaking now, younger, more progressive." Nick raised his eyes. His gaze was heavy, like wet stone. Then his tone shifted. "Progress? You call it progress when your parents disappear from hospitals because their insurance plan became inefficient? When girls from small towns buy insulin on the black market because no congressman could say no to a donation?" No applause followed. Kimmel looked down but quickly regained control. "Maybe it's just time to exit the stage while they still remember you? Not everyone wants a lecture about insulin on a Wednesday night." "I'm not everyone," Nick shot back. "I'm here because as long as I have a voice, I won't let this country pretend everything's fine. When my friends, carpenters and nurses, survive between 2 shifts on pizza and bupropion, that's not progress. That's genocide, just without the marches." For a moment, the broadcast froze. The camera zoomed in, as if drawn to the truth. "Well," Kimmel said, "let me ask one last question." "Go ahead." "When you're a grandpa and your grandson asks, 'What did you do when America was breaking?' will you tell him about this broadcast?" Pause. Nick didn't look at him. He looked at the audience, as if he could see them on the other side of the screen. Real people, hunched in armchairs, holding evening tea, with faces that had seen more than aloud. "No," he said calmly. "I'll say I started with one sentence, and you know the rest." The room didn't applaud. Kimmel adjusted his tie. The audience waited for a joke, but the joke never came. Only silence. The cameras kept rolling. The pause wasn't cut. "You know, Jimmy," Nick's voice grew sharper, his tone metallic, like a blade. "You could show a bit more respect, instead of joking like you're some damn fool who gets away with everything just because you've got a mic." Stunned silence in the studio. The cameras kept running, red lights blinking, as the sound engineer suddenly looked up from the console. Kimmel blinked, unable to believe what he'd heard. Then he smiled, reflexively, because that's what he was trained to do. You? You just called me a damn fool on live TV? Yeah. And you know what? Nick leaned forward. His gaze not a movie, not a character, not a meme. I didn't say it for effect. I said it because you're part of the culture that mocks while the house burns. Sorry, what do you want to hear? That we're all clowns dancing while the country's falling apart? This is television, Nick. People want to laugh. People want the truth, Offerman interrupted. But the truth scares you, because then you'd have to strip away the glitz. You'd have to admit, Jimmy, that you make $8 million a year while your viewers choose between medicine and the electric bill. Someone in the audience shifted in their seat. A woman in the third row gripped her husband's hand. Everyone felt it. This was no longer just television. You're going too far, Kimmel said, losing control. You came here as a guest, but you're acting like some self-righteous crusader who thinks he owns the stage. I'm not a guest, Nick stood up. I'm an American who's tired of watching culture get turned into a cheap trick, of seeing my generation called backward because they don't know how to make reels but know how to hold a country together. Kimmel jumped up. You're just an old guy nobody's scared of anymore, he shouted. That's it. You're here because you're afraid of fading away. Like VHS, like rotary phones, like your idea of dignity. And you're afraid someone will turn on the light, Offerman replied calmly, and see that your empire is built on shame, on humiliation, on laughing first so no one laughs at you. In the studio, only the sound of his voice remained. No music, no applause cues. Why is it so important to you to humiliate someone trying to tell the truth? I'm not humiliating anyone. I'm hosting a show, Kimmel insisted, but his voice trembled. You came here with your morals. This is Hollywood, buddy. You either sell out or you don't exist. So you've already given up? Just say it. And then, a sudden move. Kimmel waved his hand, signaling to the producer. Commercial. But the control room froze. The director didn't dare cut. We're not going to commercial, the producer's voice crackled in Kimmel's earpiece. You wanted a live show. Now deal with it. Kimmel stood frozen, momentarily lost. The usually obedient audience sat mesmerized. Phones in the crowd were already up. Someone was streaming. The broadcast continued. Nick slowly stepped closer to the cameras. His eyes weren't anger. They were a challenge to everyone watching. People on the other side of the screen, he said, you're not stupid. You see when they're pouring lies into your ears. You feel when they're laughing at you for not being young, not trendy, not convenient for algorithms. But you're still here, and as long as you're watching, I'll keep talking. Kimmel stayed silent. For the first time, he had no response. If you're tired of truth being a joke and dignity being a prop, Nick continued, you know what to do. Click. Pause. The sound of held breath in the room. In that moment, someone shouted from the audience, Tell them, Nick, they haven't listened to us for decades. The cameras kept rolling. Backstage, someone was yelling into a phone. Outside, security was already gathering. But in the center of the frame stood a man who'd stopped playing and started speaking. You talk a lot about laughs, about the show, but the audience doesn't know what happens when the lights go out. Kimmel turned away, swallowing hard. He tried to smile, but it clung like a paper mask on wet skin. What are you talking about, Nick? About how you act when the cameras aren't rolling. Offerman stepped forward, right to the edge of the stage. Like today, in the dressing room. The kid from Tech, 23, from Tulsa, a rookie, said something wrong about the lighting. And you, the great comedian, started yelling, called him a futureless idiot. In front of everyone, in front of me. A chill ran through the studio. Silence, like the calm before a storm. Kimmel defended himself. I just. Nick didn't back down. You just let out what you really think about people who aren't on your level. You humiliate Jimmy, not on air, in life. Because deep down, you're scared of one thing, that you're no longer funny. That without a teleprompter, you're just a guy who's lost touch with reality. Someone in the audience gasped. A producer offstage gestured frantically. But the director didn't dare interrupt. The energy of the scene had taken on a life of its own. "That's a lie," Kimmel said. "You're twisting it. It was a moment. I snapped. Like a politician whose shoes got stepped on?" Nick locked eyes with him. "You didn't snap. You showed who you are when the cameras are off, and that's why this moment matters." He turned to the audience. "Isn't this about all of us? They judge us by how we perform on the show, but the real face shows not on stage, but backstage. And if we want to change this country, we need to start right there." Kimmel flushed, biting his lip, but he didn't interrupt. "You watch this show," Nick continued, his voice now calm but taut like a wire. "Because you want laughter, and I'm not against laughter, but not the kind built on mockery. Not the kind where someone with power humiliates those who can't fight back. Not when our veterans are sleeping in trailers and you're joking about Florida retirees like it's a punchline, not pain." The silence was so deep, you could hear a glass accidentally dropped backstage. Finally, Kimmel spoke. "So what do you propose? Take away people's entertainment? Turn TV into a soapbox?" "No," Nick said. "I propose making entertainment responsible. I propose stopping the laughter at people who are already struggling. I propose listening." And then, an older man stood up in the front row. Then a woman. The audience rose. No cheers, no ovations, just silent support. Kimmel stood there, for the first time, alone. Not as a host, as a man finally seen. "You can't do this on air," he said quietly. "It'll be the end of the show." Nick stepped back. "Maybe the end of your show, but the start of something real." When the broadcast cut off, the screen froze for a few seconds, a flickering frame of Nick standing half-turned to the camera, with a crowd behind him no longer clapping but staring, like into a mirror. Then came the show's logo. Then, silence. Backstage, the climate was different. The air conditioner hissed like an old film projector. The walls were mute, like cement barricades between past and present. 2 security guards silently escorted Nick to the dressing room. A producer held a phone to his ear, whispering, "Yes, he's still here. No, he hasn't signed anything yet." Nick sat in a chair. The overhead light, cold, televisual, unforgiving. His gaze slid to the table, where a half-open script with Kimmel's lines lay. "Ask about the beard." Then a beaver joke. Then, short video. He read aloud. 3 steps to reduce a person to a gag. The door creaked. Julie Skinner, one of ABC's executive directors, walked in. She'd interviewed Nick back in 2005, when he was still just a carpenter who'd unexpectedly become a star. "Nick," she sat across from him, "do you realize the position you've put us in?" "Yup," he replied. "A position where you have to choose between truth and ratings." She sighed. Not angrily, more tiredly. "We'll get a statement from Jimmy. It'll be spun as a misunderstanding. Creative conflict. But you'll need to apologize. Otherwise, I'm off the air," he finished for her. "Nowhere." "Yes." Nick was silent for a few seconds. Then he leaned closer. "Julie, do you know how many of this show's viewers are over 55? More than half. People who grew up respecting decency. I just said out loud what they see every day, how behind the scenes of this country, the weak get trampled because it's fun, convenient, or profitable. You turned it into a rally. That's not the format." "The format doesn't work anymore, Julie. The world's changing. People see they're being kept half asleep. You think they came to hear a beaver joke? Number. They're waiting for someone to tell the truth and not flinch." She stood. "We'll figure out how to spin this." "No need," he said. "I'll handle it myself." By the next morning, the yanked-off air clip was spreading across the internet. Not PR teams, not journalists. Ordinary viewers posted fragments from their phones. TikTok, Facebook, even email chains for seniors. Caption: Nick Offerman told the truth. And the camera blinked. That evening, he went live from home. No suit, no producer. Just him and a camera. He read a letter from the kid in the tech crew. "Mr. Offerman, thank you for standing up for me. I was going to quit. Now I want to stay. Maybe something will change because of you. Nick smiled, quietly, humbly, like a man who knows. It's not about the airtime. It's about the people watching.